99% of people are forced out. Very few do it like Dustin did and, you know, picked his own path and chose his time to go.
He is one of the top coaches in all of mixed martial arts, and this past weekend, I'm sure it was an emotional one because it was Dustin Poirier's final fight. He, of course, was in the corner, and we're going to talk about that and so much more. Always my great pleasure to speak to American Top Team's own Mike Brown. Mike, how's everything?
Everything's great, man. Good chatting with you.
Always appreciate it. So let me ask you, you've been around the fight game so long, and I was literally just listening to a little bit of your interview on UFC Unfiltered where you talk about your own retirement when you walked away. Dustin and you are extremely close. So can you give me a sense, like, now that it's all after, like, what was the emotion like last week, like going into it and then coming out of it, like for you personally?
It was, I was fine. I thought that it was a good time for him. I thought it was the right move. And, it wasn't a sad thing. It was a celebration. I think, in a weird way, we were all happy. Even after the fight, it didn't, it didn't go his way. But dude, it was nothing but a celebration the whole way. It was like the whole time, everyone was bringing up like amazing memories and amazing accomplishments. And really, it was not a sad moment. And nobody was sad the whole way through it, even in the loss, it was the whole week was like a celebration of his career in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean, we so often in the sport, and I know Dustin brought this up a lot during fight week, like guys don't get to retire, the sport retires them. They walk out on a loss, they get carried out on a loss, unfortunately. He didn't want that to happen to him. So like this entire event being built around him was such a rare thing. Like I don't really know the UFC's ever done anything like that. Like I know they gave, Robbie Lawler a cool video and things like that, but I don't think they've ever built an event around a guy, walking away like this and going down to New Orleans. I mean, the atmosphere is incredible. And like, I think I tweeted on Saturday night when they played that tribute video, I was like, this is getting emotional for me. And I'm just like covering the sport.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to see him go, but I know that, not a lot's going to change. We won't be going on fight trips anymore, but he'll still be at the gym helping guys out. And he'll be around, involved with the sport. We just won't see him in these, amazing fights anymore. But yeah, it was, yeah. I'm happy that he got out unhurt, unscathed, and with no major damage. And, like you said, 99% of people are forced out. Very few do it like Dustin did and, picked his own path and chose his time to go.
Yeah. Well, when I talk about your interview, you were talking about like you had a neck surgery and then you had that loss to the UFC and you basically said, I'm done. Like you were walking away at that point. This sounds like a loaded question, but it's really not. Now that it's all said and done, I know you told me before the fight, you said he's got plenty of money, he's doing good. Like, he feels comfortable walking away. Now that it's all said and done, when I say this, I don't mean it like he didn't look good in there, but like now that it's all said and done, do you feel like this was the right move? Like this was the right timing to do this now versus coming back, like, say, I got to go out on a win. I got to come back and get a win before I retire.
No, it was the right time. I mean, it was, and maybe in some ways, had he won, it might bother him more to want to keep fighting. Even though he was out, he was like, maybe I should keep going. Maybe that would be in his head, right? Like, I'm not sure, but maybe it was good for him that he had an exciting fight but didn't get the W. Maybe it was good for his psyche for him to accept that it's time to move on, right? Because maybe had he, knocked Max out or something, maybe he would have went, maybe it would bother him that he's retiring too early or something like this. He's obviously, one of the best lightweights of all time. And his resume is incredible and all that. But it was time. It's good for him. He's made a great life for himself.
Absolutely. Can I ask your assessment on the fight? Because we knew this was going to be a war. You know, the first fight happened so early in their careers, and obviously Dustin submitted him pretty early on, but that, you know, it almost like, I don't want to discount that fight happening. It was just so long ago. It feels like two totally different guys.
Yes.
2019 is relevant because they were both top fighters at that point. And obviously Dustin was brilliant that night. Credit to Max. He took a lot of damage that fight, but he stuck around, put on an incredible fight. What did you make of the fight Saturday night? Because let's be honest, Mike, it did not start the way I'm sure you wanted with Dustin. But then he comes back in that second round, and I mean, he nearly gets to finish himself. I mean, this was I know you don't go out there hoping for these wars, but like this was like a classic Dustin Poirier fight.
It was scary as hell. You know, I thought that, oh no. I mean, it was like worst case scenario. He got hurt bad. He's dropped and all of a sudden now he's mounted in like almost like a body triangle, like almost like the worst situation you could be in. And it's like, oh no, how does he get out of this? This is not what we want. But somehow he survived it, battled out and got back to his feet. The place went nuts. And then he dropped Max, you know, shortly after, next round. So it brought some big drama to the event, and you know, made for an exciting show. I mean, had he got stopped in the first with that, I mean, that would have been terrible. You know, then it'd be would be singing a different tune. Would all be, you know, not so content with what went down. It would be a nightmare. But I mean, it was a great fight. You know, I thought it was a competitive fight. You know, in the end, Max won, but I thought it was a competitive fight, and Dustin had his opportunities, and you know, he did a few things differently, or landed a couple of shots. You know, the outcome could have been different.
I mean, I said this on Saturday night. Like, I scored it for Max, but I said this in no way indicates how close this fight actually was. Like, there were so many close exchanges, so many close rounds. You have to lean one way. I hate the 10-point must system in our sport. So you have to score it one way or the other, but it was an incredibly competitive fight. And like I said, you could not have asked for a better definition of Dustin Poirier's career than that kind of a fight, which is why Max was kind of like the perfect opponent for his final fight, right?
Yeah. And I mean, he's really also one of the best fighters in the world, you know, a legend, a Hall of Famer. So it wasn't an easy fight. You know, he challenged himself. He didn't want an easy fight. He wanted a guy that's going to push him and be a tough fight. And, you know, that's what he got. You know, kudos to him for wanting to push himself.
So it's all said and done now, Mike. So we can talk honestly here. The second round, Dustin hurts him, gets him down. In your coach brain, are you thinking keep punching, finish the guy, and then he goes for the gilly? Now, as a Dustin guy, I'm like, he has to go for the gilly. It's his final fight. But in your coach brain, are you like, just throw a few? Because I think like that moment was like very close to finishing the fight.
Honestly, in that moment, I was happy he went for it. And I was like, wow, I was thinking, damn, there is a God. If he hits this, there's no doubt about it. There is a God, and he is involved in fighting. Had that happened, I would have thought for sure that something's going on here. Somebody's pulling the strings. But yeah, I'm not certain. But no, that was incredible, man. He hurt him, and like it was short time, and like who would have thought that Max would be on his knees grabbing at his legs? You know, we thought there'd be no chance that he was even going to ever be in position to be jumping guillotine, and there he was. He had one more guillotine for the road.
We joked before the fight. I said, wouldn't it be the perfect ending if he got the guillotine? And we even said, like, yeah, but come on, that's not really the kind of fight. And then he does it in the second round. I about jumped out of my chair. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going for the guillotine in the final fight.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it was incredible. I mean, the place was going nuts. Actually, at the end of that round, it was so loud, nobody heard the bell. And actually, the round went like a few extra seconds. Like
Wow.
The clock was zero. Things were still going. Nobody heard because the place was going crazy. And yeah, it went a couple extra seconds, but they ended up stopping the round. It was pretty nuts.
Yeah, it was crazy. Can I ask, Mike, you've prepared, you know, you've gotten Dustin ready for so many fights, and obviously every opponent's different. Can I just ask your assessment of Max Holloway now at lightweight? Because he looked bigger than we're normally. Obviously, he's put on weight for lightweight, but like he did look bigger, thicker. You know, obviously more adapted to the weight class. I know you got him prepared for the best Max Holloway ever. But what was your assessment of Max in that fight?
Honestly, I think that, I mean, it's good for Max to move up. I think he's probably going to be much better. I mean, I say this all the time. I think, as you age, as you get older, as you get bigger, it's like it's better to move up. I mean, boxing's been doing it for 100 years. Uh, Nobody's ever gone down later in their career and gotten better. Nobody, zero. This is 100% fact. Killing yourself is not the answer. So I think Max will be a better fighter at lightweight. Maybe probably should have done it a long time ago. He's a big guy. Killing yourself is not the answer, and I think that maybe we're going to see, one of the best Holloways that we've seen here at lightweight.
Yeah. I know you told me before the fight, you said, I asked you the question. I said, do you really think Dustin's done? Do you really think this is it? Because unfortunately, Mike, the nature of this beast. We kind of joke and say, happy retirement, see you at your next fight. Because that's just so common in this sport. But the way that Dustin went out, the way he had this entire celebration, doing it in New Orleans, like you could not have, of course, and as you said, maybe the better ending wasn't winning because if he wins, he's like, maybe one more. But he having that conclusion, an epic fight, a classic Dustin Poirier fight, his family's there, the entire state of Louisiana is celebrating him. I just can't imagine him ever walking into another arena and saying, oh yeah, let me do one more after that. Like that was literally the perfect ending.
No, it was. And I mean, you see it a lot, people making comebacks, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen it when somebody calls their retirement before the fight, right? Of all those guys, and we've seen a handful now of guys calling it, having a retirement fight, having their last one. Actually, I can think of one now, but there's not many that when you call your retirement fight, this is it. Not many people have a comeback after that. Looking back now, Faber did this, right? Uriah Faber did have a last fight. He called his last fight. It was against Brad Pickett. He had won, took some years off, and then came back. But that's very rare.
Yeah. Well, it was like I said, you could not have written just a better week. And I was like, my worry was like, man, this is just so much going on. Like it's just the emotion. But I've heard Dustin say afterwards, like he stayed focused, stayed ready for the fight, and then kind of took it all in afterwards. And you could see the emotion of that moment and let the crowd come in. And it was just like I said, it was everything else on the card was great, but that moment for Dustin, I'm just glad he got to have that moment because not a lot of fighters get that. And even though he didn't get a win, he had an epic war, which is what we've always known from Dustin Poirier. Like when Dustin Poirier is not capable of having a boring fight. It's just not possible. The guy was never capable of having a boring fight.
It was cool. I think it was, I don't know how many people were there, like 18,000, something like this. It was sold out. I think the biggest gate in the arena's history. And the fight was over. Max gave a speech. And then Dustin gave a long speech. They played the long song, Frank Sinatra, and nobody had left. It was still 100% completely full. I don't know how many people left. It might have been a couple hundred, but it was still completely packed at that time. I had never seen that before. Like literally everyone had stayed all the way till the very end until Dustin like walked out of that cage.
It's funny because like we all have our favorites in this sport. It's just the nature of being a fan, but it's almost like Max in a way. That's why I said it was such a weird fight. And Max was like, boo me. I want you to boo me. This is Dustin's time. Like go for it. But two guys who are more universally beloved than those two guys. So like, how can you hate Max Holloway and how can you hate Dustin Poirier? It's just not, I mean, if you do, you're just being, I don't want to use the word, but like, you can't, you can root against them, but you cannot hate either one of those guys.
Dude, Max is so humble and I don't know what the word is, but man, he just is in that position. He just was not making about him at all. And he was the man. I mean, this is so rare. Like it would, I mean, fighting is such a selfish sport. You need to be selfish. You need to be selfish to be good. You need to be selfish to stand out. It's the nature of the beast. And just how humble he was and how humble he is and gracious. He's a pretty amazing dude.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Mike, I feel like you're such a busy guy that at some point with technology where it's at right now, we need to clone you because you have so much to do and so many places to go. I know we've talked during fight weeks where you've been at a place, traveled hundreds of miles to go corner a guy, traveled hundreds of miles back to go do it again. And I know this past weekend probably broke your heart because obviously your guy Johnny Eblen was fighting down in Cape Town. And when I talked to
Oh,
Johnny before the fight, he said, coaches are going with Dustin. It's his last one. Like, I understand he had a good team around him. But I know, listen, Johnny's an incredible fighter. I know you know the result. I don't know if you've had a chance to rewatch it since then. But
course.
how much did it break your heart just not to be? I mean, I know you had to not be there because you were with Dustin, but like even he told me, he's like, of course Mike's gonna go with Dustin. I totally understand that, but had to break your heart because I know that's one of your guys. Like you've been with Johnny for years.
A major heartbreaking. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I've run into this problem, a bunch of times now at this point because of, we got guys in all major organizations, but it was heartbreaking. I mean, typically it goes by seniority, the guy who's been there the longest. And, I've been with Dustin a lot longer than I have with Johnny, because he's been at the gym for longer. But yeah, it was heartbreaking not to be able to go with him. I would have loved to go on the trip. And just the way it went down, I do believe Johnny was the better fighter. And it was, I thought I had it scored 3-1 going into the fifth, and I thought he was winning the fifth, until that last bit. Maybe even if he lost the fifth, he still would have won the fight. But dang, that was a heartbreaker, man. But that's what makes the sport so exciting. That anybody can win at any time. And, he'll be back, it's pressure off and a big learning moment.
I mean, I feel like I know you don't control it, but I feel like they got to do the rematch because I had him up 3-1, same as you. And then, and credit to Costello Van Steen is pulling off literally last 10 seconds to get that submission. Like that's literally, that's the kind of thing you can only hope for when you're down in a fight like that. But if anyone deserves it, it's a guy who is undefeated, multi-time defending champion. If anyone deserves a rematch, it's good. And you were winning. It wasn't like he was down 4-0.
Yes.
He was winning. You got to give Johnny the rematch.
Of course, right? The guy is a monster. He's defended his belt many times. He's like, I don't know, 17, 18-0, whatever it might be. I mean, he hasn't lost many rounds, a couple of rounds in his whole career, to be honest. Johnny's a monster. And, he got subbed with 10 seconds to go in a fight he was winning. So if you don't give him a rematch, it's unfair. And, the system is broken.
100%. I agree. Mike, we talked, I want to say about a month and a half ago. So it was before Kayla's fight, and we haven't had a chance to talk since then. Of course, Kayla goes out there, dominant victory. I'm not going to say I called it, but I called it. I thought she would go out there and do it. She did. And I saw this.
Not a big call. Not a tough call.
Not a risky call. I didn't really go out on a limb for that one. But I talked to Kayla. I think she got home on Monday. I talked to her that Wednesday, and I talked to her about bringing the belt back to ATT. And as a guy, I've been at ATT. I know the Wall of Champions, which, by the way, the cases have gotten much bigger since I was there last. But you were with Kayla literally since day one of her coming down there and training. And I asked her like how special that moment was because, just going back to your team, but somebody who literally grew up at American Time. And by the way, I know you don't hold against guys who trained other places and come to ATT. That's totally fine. But Kayla grew up at ATT. How special was that moment to see her get that belt and then bring it back to the gym? Because I know that's a really cool moment for a fighter.
No, I mean, it's beautiful. And there is something a little bit extra special about somebody who didn't train martial arts anywhere else, or mixed martial arts anywhere else. Obviously, she's a phenom martial artist and Olympic champion when she came in. But mixed martial art training, she began at ATT, and from 0 fights to where she is now with us is nice. But yeah, obviously she is a 1 in a billion type athlete, right? She's not normal by any means.
No, and I mean, to see her go out and do that, I mean, again, I predicted her winning, but for her to go out and do it the way she did, just absolutely dominant. There was no doubt about it, getting the submission the way she did, and because so much gets made about the weight cut and things like that, but then she just looks like. I told her that I was like, I know it kills you to get the weight, but then the next day it looks like you never went through a weight cut. It's remarkable how well she recovers from that and goes out there and just absolutely looks like a beast, like she always does.
She got a good nutritionist. She got, Matt Pena is helping her with the weight cut, and he does a hell of a job. He's also been with Dustin. I've been working with him for a bit, and no, he's great at his job, and these guys are making the weight and feeling good with good energy in the cage. So we're gonna keep that going, and Pena's the man.
So let me ask you, Mike, I brought this up to you in the past because it's always been kind of looming in the air, which is the eventual fight we all wanted to see with Kayla and Amanda. But now it's actually happening. Like, I don't know the date, don't know the location, but we know Amanda's back in the testing pool, and that is 100% going to be the next fight. I've kind of avoided that question for you, A, because it wasn't the fight you were focused on, but also B, because there is that weird thing. You were Amanda's coach for many years, and now, of course, you're Kayla's coach. And when I talked to Kayla, she said nothing but great things about Amanda. Like, this is not a personal thing. There's no grudge. And she told me very candidly, she's like, I don't want this to be like a Colby Masvidal situation where it just gets really ugly. But can I ask, like, now for you, like, you were Amanda's coach for many years, and now you've been a Kayla's coach for many years. Is there any, do you just set aside the past, or I mean, Amanda very well. So like, how do you internalize that when you got two people so well about to fight?
There's no bad blood. This is just about competition, about two incredible athletes. Amanda is the GOAT, the best to ever do it. She's beat nearly every champion in almost all the women's divisions it's ever been. Like, her resume is incredible. And Kayla wants to be known as also the best, so the only way you do that is fighting the best. And Amanda certainly is that. So it'll be the biggest fight in women's history. And, it's an exciting matchup.
I hear two schools of opinion on when you've worked with a fighter. Some people say you make too much of it. When you train with somebody, you've been around somebody, you can make too much of it. Yes, you can learn things, but you got to focus on yourself. You can't really worry about your opponent. Now, it's a little different for you because, of course, you coached Amanda for many, many years. That knowledge, like, I'm not going to ask you to divulge secrets by any stretch of the imagination, but like, do you have to just focus on Kayla and not worry like as much about, like, I know Amanda. Of course, you trained Amanda. You were in her corner for some of her biggest fights, but do we make too much of like this? Like, you were around her, she trained with Kayla. Like, do we make too much of that? Like,
no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, you want to focus on you, and you want to, if they're really good at kind of a special move or kind of one dimensional, you want to stay away from that. But it's important to do what got you there. Do what you do best. Don't shy away from that, and make them adapt to you, and impose your will, impose your game on them. I think that's the way to do it. Obviously there are exceptions. There are exceptions, but it's a fight. You want to do what you do best, and watch out for what they're going to do, but don't be intimidated. Put your game on them.
Absolutely. When I talked to Kayla after her win, I asked her and I said, this is exactly what you said. Is it is the biggest fight in women's MMA history? And I said, if you beat Amanda, do you feel like you finally accomplished your goal? Because her goal from day one has been, I want to be the greatest of all time. That's been her goal since, I think, the first time I talked to her after the Olympics. She said that when she decided to do MMA. And when I asked her that question after the fight, she's like, I'm at peace now. I've done what I need to do in my career. That's up for you guys to decide, but I'm at peace with what I put together in my career. She didn't really focus on that when I asked her that question. But I'll ask you, Mike, we know what Amanda's done. She is the GOAT currently. I don't think anyone that disputes that's just lying to themselves. If Kayla goes out there and does what she thinks she's going to do and what I know you believe she's going to do you believe she has ascended to that spot? You beat the GOAT, you become the GOAT. But it's not just that. She's done a lot before that fight. Like, Juliana beat Amanda. We didn't call her the GOAT for understandable reasons. Kayla does. I feel like it's going to be hard not to call her the greatest.
Time will tell. This is like a very opinionated type of bullshit, like this is just one guy's opinion over another, nothing that can be proven. So this has to happen over time, and can't be just, I think, given over one win and one loss. I think you have to wait till things happen, and only time will tell these things. That's hard to say at this moment.
You're going to laugh when I say this. I think what will actually cement Kayla's place in history is beating Amanda and then winning her next one, because Amanda's such a big fight. Like, when you beat her, It's like, man, you got to, like, that's an emotional roller coaster to beat who we consider the greatest right now. You got to go out and defend it again, because it's almost like, can you deal with the emotional overload of that? Like, you went through such an emotional moment to get to Amanda, and then your next fight, like, you almost feel like it's going to be a letdown, but you can't let it be a letdown, right? Like, you can't ignore any opponent.
Yeah, I mean, for that status, it also is about longevity, and you need to put several wins together. But Kayla does have an impressive resume also. People don't think about it, but no, there's a lot of like very tough athletes in the PFL as well. I mean, just because they're not as well known, it's not a cakewalk over there by any means.
I mean, in her entire career, she has one loss, and you argue 3 rounds. If you're going to argue that loss, out of everything she's ever lost, 3 rounds. That's it. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
when you think about it.
That's 100% truth. She might have lost her. I think she might have lost a round in the UFC against what's her name again?
Ketlin Vieira, that one.
Yeah. But yeah, besides that, she lost, and she beat Pacheco 2 times before the close decision. Yeah.
Yeah, and also has the win over Holly Holm, which matters. It's another former champion out on the resume. Very dominantly, by the way. So.
No, that was a dominant, fight. That was a good. She looked good in that one. Yeah.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, Mike, I know a lot of your guys have gotten back in action. Last time we talked, he hadn't fought yet. Mateusz Gamrot finally got back in there. I know how much he had been itching to get in there. I know we talked about Kyoji. He was dealing with a rib injury. Hopefully we're going to see him back pretty soon. You always got a million guys. I know Marvin fought last weekend. He fought like a warrior. What else? Who am I forgetting? Who else do you have coming up in the near future that I'm forgetting about? You always have like a massive schedule of guys coming up.
We got Danny Sabatello's now in Ryzen, looking great. We got next week I'll be with Chris Duncan, and I'll be with also Rinya, Japanese fighter, great wrestler. But the guys you might know, the biggest names, we got what do we got coming up? You know what? I have a few weeks off. I think after next week, I have a few weeks off, and it's going to be nice.
Take a little vacation, Mike. I think you've earned it.
I'll take it. Yeah. But yeah, I think after next weekend, I've got like a few weeks off, so I'll be okay for a while.
Well, enjoy it, obviously, and I know you got the PFL finals coming up. I know that's going to be some busy time for you. So, yeah. Obviously, it never really slows down. And like I said, even the guys you don't coach, like I know you always are out there support. Like I know Dakota works with different people. There's other people in American team, top team to have different coaches. Pantoja, obviously, but you're always there to support your guys. ATT is always one big family.
100%. No, best. We got best team, and we got a really deep coaching staff, and a really deep level of high level fighters. It's always high level sparring every day, so iron sharpens iron. The level is super high every day. It's no easy goes at the gym.
I know I've told you this before, and I'll say it again. One of my favorite trips ever was when I came down there for that camp for Joanna, and I actually got to experience ATT for like a full week being at the gym. And it's just so crazy, like walking around that place. You're like, I'm sure my eyes were constantly bulging out of my head. Just like I always tell you, like I got to watch Dustin spar with Jorge. I got to watch Jorge grapple with Shoeface. I got to watch Joanna and Nina were grappling. I was like, I got to see so much cool stuff just being at ATT for like 5 days.
It's like a fight museum, mixed martial art fight museum. Yeah. If you're into MMA, dude, it's the Mecca.